Hi, you're very welcome to our Osteoporosis Pilates class. The course is designed to help you to get your inner core strong while protecting the bones and the joints in your body. We all know that this is really important, especially with osteoporosis, as it becomes an extra strain on the bones. So we have designed this to give you safe exercises to know whatever you're doing is safe. Now, you must bear in mind that while there are guidelines as to what you should do and what you shouldn't do in your life when you have osteoporosis, you have to keep on living and you have to keep on behaving as normal and trying to get as much activity in and everything. So it is really important that you're strong doing every movement, not just the ones that are advised. So where it is advised that you shouldn't be bending forwards and loading your spine in a bent and twisted position, you also need to remember that sometimes you will get into particular positions without meaning to them during your activities during the day. You may bend down to pick up something, and you need to be strong enough to support your body when you're doing that. So we've designed this class to try and give you inner strength while you perform a number of different activities. So enjoy the class.
So I'm going to take you now through the basic principles, and then I'm going to demonstrate them with you and get you working with me. So the first thing we need to think about is our breathing, and everyone knows about breathing and Pilates, so we'll be going through that. So the breathing is really important. The recruitment of the deep core muscles down here is really important as well. Then the position of the pelvic girdle or the pelvis, the position of the rib cage, the position of the shoulder blades and the shoulders, the position of the head and neck are all really, really important. So I'm going to talk you through all of those now, and then we'll get you doing a little bit of work. So we're going to start with the breathing, and you can either kneel down, sit or stand for this, and if you have a mirror in front of you, all the better, and if you don't, you can practice this in front of a mirror. Just take a breath in and look what happens to your shoulders. So when you breathe in, do you breathe in like, and your shoulders rise up, or do you breathe into here? So in Pilates, we want you to breathe into the bottom of your rib cage to expand your rib cage, especially in the back area. We don't want to see you bringing all the air in the front here and raising your shoulders up. So you're trying to bypass this area and bring the air right down into the bottoms of the lungs. And in Pilates, we always breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. And if you're doing the exercises correctly, you should be noisy when you're doing the Pilates, because the breathing really helps you to recruit the muscles. So there is a reason for it. We're not just doing it for the sake of making noise. So tune into that and really try and get your breathing correct. So it should look like, and when you're breathing out, if you breathe through a more pursed lips, it's better again. So a couple of deep breaths like that, just to get the feet, keeping the ribs down. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Very good. We move on now to looking at the recruitment of the deep core muscles down here. So what you have to think about when you're recruiting your deep core muscles is that the pelvic sling, which passes in underneath your body, holds all of your organs in and up, is attached deep down to the bottom of the transversus abdominis muscle, which is the muscle which expands down around here, up around your rib cage here, and it comes from around your back. So it's like a big girdle the whole way around, up into the ribs and down into the pelvis, underlying all of your other muscles. So it expands all the way around there. And your pelvic floor underneath is actually attached to the bottom of that muscle. So if we recruit our pelvic floor, it will automatically transfer up and help the transversus abdominis to recruit, okay? So when we're doing that, if you put your fingers down in, just come to your hip bones here, feel them, and just move in about, say, 2 inches, and move down about 2 inches. And then give a little cough, and you should feel that muscle there just contract a little bit. That's when we're going to feel for the target that when we're doing the exercise, because it's a good place for you to actually feel the muscle working. So if you take a breath in through your nose, and as you breathe out, imagine you're trying to pull up inside, literally like as if you're trying to stop yourself doing a poo or a pee, okay? So breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside. And you should feel that little muscle just going firm there under your fingers. Breathe in to hold that there, and then breathe out, let it relax. Okay, so we'll try that again. So breath in through your nose, and then as you breathe out, pull up inside and tighten that pelvic floor in underneath. Breathe in to hold it, and then breathe out, let it relax again. Okay, now when you're doing that, you're getting the bottom of the transverse abdominis core muscle to work. Now we're going to try and get more across the front of it here to work as well. And what you have to imagine this time is you imagine you're trying to pull this hip bone over towards this hip bone. So you're trying to close them together, like pull them together, like as if you were trying to pull your jeans, the zipper of your jeans together in order to get the zip up, okay? So you imagine you're trying to pull them in together like that, and that's the movement that you're trying to get across here. You don't want this muscle to stick out, okay? The six-pack muscle, as I tell the young lads, is for attracting women. It's not for getting the deep core going. We're not looking for this band of muscle to work at the moment. We want to work underneath it, okay? So take a breath in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor and feel it working there. Breathe in again, and out as you breathe out, imagine you're trying to flatten your tummy across the front and pull your two pelvic bones together. Breathe in to hold that, and then breathe out, let it all relax again. So breath in, breathing out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor. Breathe in to hold it, and then breathe out, try and pull across the front, really tight, try and get the pelvic bones together in the front. Breathe in to hold it, and then breathe out, let it relax. Now your back shouldn't move when you're doing this, okay? We'll do it on the floor now again in a moment, all right? So that is recruiting your deep core muscle, okay? And we'll be talking about that the whole way through the exercise. The next one that I want to do in standing then is teach you about the position of your pelvis here, okay? Because you have to think about if you put your belly button, fingers on your belly button, and your fingers out towards your hip bone, and your fingers down towards here, you make this diamond shape, okay? And what you want to do is you want to be able to get that diamond shape, that it's lined up. So when you're standing, it'll be vertical. So you don't want it to be tilted forwards like this, and you don't want it to be rocked back like this. You want it to be in the middle, okay? And we're going to be doing this down on the mat in a moment, okay? So that's the position that you will be getting the pelvis in for all of the movements. The next important one to think about is the rib cage. So the rib cage in a lot of people tends to poke out, especially if you're someone who has had children in the past and you've had a big bump sticking out there. Well, very often this gets spread and it never really comes back into line again. So when you're thinking about your rib cage, you have to think about bringing your rib cage from here down into line so that it doesn't poke out, that it comes down in line. The way I like to think of it is, imagine it's like the lid of a coffee jar on top of a jar, and then if you're rotating, the lid will have to go on it. If you're poked out like that, obviously the lid is pointing the wrong direction, it won't go onto the coffee jar. So think about that when you're lining your rib cage up with your pelvis. The next one that we'll look at is the shoulder blades and getting them back into line. We'll do those in lying, and then we'll also look at the head and neck in lying because it's easier to see those two in line. Okay, so that's basically an introduction. We're going to get you down onto the mat now, and we'll go through the exercises and the warm-up exercises and try and teach you the techniques to put into the exercises. Now we're going to try and get our spine into a neutral position like we did in standing. We're going to now try that in lying. So in lying, when you're lying, your head should feel like it's in line with your body. So we would put a pillow under your head. Now if you've got a good range of movement in your neck, you'll still be able to leave your head on the floor, but you may want to keep a pillow in, and we'll come back and talk about that in a moment. So I'm going to leave my head on the floor. So think of the pelvic diamond I spoke about earlier. Your thumbs are on your belly button, the heels of your hands are on your hip bone, and your fingers are down towards your pubic bone. Now you're going to rock your pelvis backwards and forwards, okay? So rock them back and forwards until you feel that that pelvic diamond is flat, parallel with the ceiling. So if it was a tray of drinks, they're not going to spill, they're dead flat. And that's you in your spinal neutral position. And at the beginning of every exercise, we'll tell you to rock your pelvis into a neutral position, and that's where we want you to end up. So when you get into this position, we're going to tighten our core now. So breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor, and then tighten the core across the front to try and flatten your tummy. But don't let your spine move, your spine stays in neutral. Breathe in to hold that, and then breathe out, let the muscles relax again. So breathe in to prepare, and then breathing out, pull up inside first of all for the pelvic floor, and then flatten the tummy across the front. Breathe in to hold that position, and then breathe out, let it relax. And nothing else moves at all. You just have your hands relaxed by your side, or you can keep your fingers in here where you can feel what's happening. Breathe in to prepare, and then breathing out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor, and then tighten the core across the front. Breathe in to hold that, and then breathe out, let it relax. Two more. Breath in, and breath out to hold, pull up inside and hold it, and then breathing in, let it relax. So breath in again to prepare, and then breathe out as you pull up inside for the pelvic floor and tighten the core across the front. Breathe in to hold that there, and then breathe out, let it relax. Well done. Okay, so now we're going to learn about imprint. So as the exercises get harder, you will need to be able to move from your neutral position in your spine to what we call your imprint position in your spine, okay? And basically what happens in the imprint position is your ribs and your pelvis come closer together in the front so that your low back sinks in towards the floor. Now some people call this just pulling your belly button towards the spine, but that doesn't really work, because you have got to get the ribs and the pelvis to move with it, okay? You don't just want to suck the belly in, and as well as that, if you're doing your breathing properly, you won't be able to suck your belly in. So this is where you've got to have the ribs and the pelvis coming together.
So having a closer look at having our spine in a neutral position, we want to have our rib cage here and our pelvis lined up so that the front of our tummy is flat. If you have got too much of an arch in your back where you can actually get your hand underneath because your ribs are flared up or your pelvis is poked up, you don't want that. If you're too dipped down so that your tailbone is up off the mat in here, you don't want that either. So your neutral position is when you are flat, rib cage lined with pelvis. And then when you try to do your imprint, what we're talking about, if we watch, I'm putting my thumb on the corner of my rib and my thumb on my finger on my pelvis here. And the idea with the imprint is that the thumb and the finger come closer together as you bring the rib cage and the pelvis together and your low back sinks into the floor. That's what's called imprint. Down into this position and back to neutral. Now what you don't want to see happening is, you don't want to see the rib staying where it is and all the work happening with the pelvis, or you don't want to see the pelvis staying where it is and all the work just happening with the rib. You're trying to come down just with the rib on its own, okay? So what you're looking for is the rib and the pelvis to come down deep together so that your back sinks into the floor, and that's your imprinted position. Okay?
So you're going to put your thumbs on your ribs, on the angle of your ribs there. You're going to put your fingers down onto your pelvis. You're going to breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor and tighten the core across the front. Now breathe in to hold that position, and now breathe out, bring your ribs and pelvis together to sink down into the mat. Breathe in to hold that there, and then breathe out, bring it back to the neutral position. Breathe in to prepare, and then breathing out, ribs and pelvis down into the mat. Breathe in to hold that there, and then breathing out, bringing it back to the middle. Now keep the core held even when you come back. Breathe in to prepare, and then breathing out, ribs and pelvis together into the mat. Breathe in to hold it, and then breathing out back to neutral. Now in case anyone's struggling, another way of thinking about that is, think about 4 strings coming from your ribs and your pelvis, and the 4 strings are coming towards your belly button, and you're just pulling them out through the belly button. So you're sinking your ribs and pelvis, everything is coming towards the middle. What you have to be careful is that you don't leave the ribs up here and just tuck in the bum like this, okay? And you also have to be careful that you don't leave the ribs tucked up like or the pelvis pushed up like this and just drop your ribs, and then your belly would stick out. So what you have got to get is, starting in your neutral position, the ribs and pelvis must come together and then back to neutral. So we'll try 3 more. So breathe in through your nose, I just keep my hand out of the way, and then breathe out, pull up inside for your pelvic floor and tighten your core across the front. Breathe in to prepare, and then breathing out, ribs and pelvis down into your imprint, and then breathing in back to neutral. Keep the core held. Breathing out, ribs and pelvis down to the imprint, and then breathing in back to neutral. Now we'll hold it this time, so keep the core held. Breathing in to prepare. Breathe out, ribs and pelvis down into the imprint, and breathe in back to neutral. 2 more. Down into the imprint, and breathe in back to neutral. Well done, okay? So we're going to add in 1 exercise at this point, and this is where you bring that imprint and you go into what we call our hip rolls. So you're going to go down through your imprint and then roll your bum up to come up almost into a shoulder bridge position. What you need to be careful in this exercise is, this is an extension of the imprint and you're curling up. You're not just lifting your spine. So if you look at me doing it, so I pull up inside and tighten, I breathe in to prepare. I breathe out down through the imprint, then I tuck my tailbone in, I clench my glutes, muscle get them working really hard, and peel up one bone at a time up onto my shoulder blades. I breathe in to stay there, then I keep the glutes working really hard, I keep the core switched on, and I breathe out, hollow out my tummy, and roll down, trying to open the bones in my low back so each one lands down at the mat separately, back to the bottom, the last inch from down is the tailbone. Now what you don't want to see is you don't want to see a straight lift up like that, okay? So you breathe in to prepare, and you go down through the imprint, tuck the tailbone in and roll it up, and then roll it back down. So we'll do it together now. So in our crook lion position, feet lined up with knees and hips, the shoulders are relaxed and the back of the head is on the mat. Rock your pelvis into neutral, breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor and tighten the core across the front. Breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, down in through your imprint, tuck your tailbone in and roll up one bone at a time. Breathing in to stay when you get up there, and then breathe out, hollow out your tummy and roll back down, opening up the bones in the low back as you come back down to a neutral position. Breathe in to prepare, keep the core held. Breathing out, down through your imprint, tuck your tailbone in and peel up one bone at a time. Breathing in to stay, and then breathing out, hollow out your tummy and roll back down to the neutral position. If you feel your hamstrings cramping, pull your heels in closer to your bum. Keep the core held. Breathing out, ribs down through your imprint, tuck your tailbone in and peel up. Breathe in to stay, and then breathing out, ribs down, open the bones in your low back as you roll right back down to the neutral position. It's a little bit like peeling the skin off a banana. Breathe in to prepare, breathing out, tuck the tailbone in, down through your imprint and peel up, like imagine the skin peeling off a banana. It comes off in a curl rather than in a solid piece. And then breathing out, ribs down, hollow out your tummy and roll back down to the neutral position. Well done. So that is getting your imprint release and your hip rolls, okay? So the next thing we want to look about then is, we mentioned already the position of the ribs. So that was you getting the position of the ribs down into line, right? The next thing then is our shoulders. A lot of people spend a lot of time with their shoulders tucked right up near their ears, okay? So the shoulders are pulled away up. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and get you to get your shoulders down and back to where they should be, but without letting the ribs poke out. So it's really important that we can do that without the ribs poking. So we're going to look at how much movement we have in our shoulders. So if you'll just look at me for a second. So if you look at me sitting up straight and I bring my arms out, I can bring my shoulders forwards. I can bring my shoulders back. So this is my shoulder blades. They go forwards and they go backwards, and then they go up and they go down. So we're going to do those 4 movements, and then we're going to settle with the shoulder blades in a nice relaxed down and back position for all of the exercises. So in your crook lion position, feet lined up with knees and hips, shoulders relaxed at the back of your head on the mat. Rock your pelvis into your neutral position and breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside for your pelvic floor and tighten the core across the front. Then breathing in, bring your arms up to shoulder level so your finger blades your fingers are pointing to the ceiling and your elbows are straight. Then breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, push your arms way up towards the ceiling, and then breathe in, just bring them back to where they started. So breathing out, push right up, and breathe in back to where they start. Keep the core held. Breathing out, push up, breathe in back to neutral, one more. And then this time we're going to imagine we're trying to bring our shoulder blades back. So our shoulder blades are going to try and meet in the middle, and you have to be careful that your ribs don't poke out here. So breathing in through your nose, and then as you breathe out, bring your shoulder blades to meet behind your back, and breathe in back to neutral. Now keep your core held to try and keep the ribs down. And then breathing out, shoulder blades in behind your back, and breathing in back to neutral. Core switched on, breathe out, ribs stay down, and you get the shoulder blades to meet behind, elbows stay straight, the fingers point to the ceiling, breathe in back to neutral, one more. And then lower the arms down by your side. All right, this time you're going to slide your shoulder blades along the mat and bring your shoulders towards your ears, keeping your hands nicely relaxed. Your spine still stays in neutral. And we're going to start again by breathing in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor and tighten the core across the front. Then breathe in to prepare, and I breathe out, slide your shoulders along the floor towards your ears, and then breathe in back to neutral. Breathe out, slide towards your ears, and then breathe in back to neutral. Hold the core all the time, breathing out, sliding up towards your ears, and breathe in back to neutral. So you're working your stress muscles, breathing out, stretch them up to the ears. You feel all that tension up around your neck, and breathe in back to neutral. Now keep the core held. This time now you're going to stretch out those stress muscles. So breathe out, try and stretch your fingers way down towards your toes, but keep the front of the chest wide. Don't let the shoulders rise up, and breathe in back to neutral. So breathing out, stretch them way down towards your toes, reach to your toes, keep the front of the chest wide, and don't let the ribs poke, keep the chin in line. And then breathe in back to neutral. Breathing out, stretch them way down, wide chest in the front, ribs are down, head and neck is in line, and breathe in back to neutral. Last one. And then relax the shoulders into the middle of those, and those 4 movements, when you put them all together, pick the middle spot, and that's where you want your shoulders to relax there. Okay, now we're going to do a little exercise for our shoulders, where we're going to try and move our arms without letting our ribs poke up, and this is where keeping the ribs down is all important. So you can look at me doing it first of all. I'll talk you through in a moment. You're going to bring your arms up, and then when you get to here, you're going to keep your ribs down as you try to bring your arm above your head and circle to your hips. So what you don't want to see happening is you bring your arms up and then your ribs go way up in the air like this as you come forwards. You don't want to see that happening. What we're trying to do is dissociate our shoulder from our rib cage and allow the arm to come up and circle without the shoulder coming up. If you imagine anything you do overhead, like hanging clothes at a clothesline, or reaching up to a shelf in a cupboard, or reaching up to catch a ball if you're playing a game of tennis or hurling or whatever, right? So what you want is you want to be able to keep your rib down as your arm goes up. Okay, so that's what this exercise is all about, so I'll talk you through it. So again, in your neutral position, feet lined up with knees and hips, your shoulders are now relaxed and the back of the head is on the mat. Breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor and tighten the core across the front. Then breathe in, bring your arms up towards the ceiling. Now breathe out, bring your arms above your head, but don't let the ribs rise, and circle them around your hips. So breathing in, arms up to the ceiling, core switched on, and then keep the core working. As you breathe out, bring your arms above your head and circle to your hips. Don't let the ribs rise. Breathing in, arms up. Breathe out, blow out, and bring the arms above your head towards the floor and circle to your hips. Now only go as far as you can without your ribs rising. Keep the ribs in line. Last one, breathing in, arms up, and then breathing out above your head and circle to your hips, and then relax the arms. Okay, so let's get your arms going. Now the next part is extremely important, the head and neck. So many people come into us having done Pilates elsewhere, whatever, at home, off a video, and they have a sore neck, and the reason they have a sore neck is because they're using the wrong muscles. So similar to us having deep core muscles down in our pelvis, we also have deep core muscles in our neck, and they're called our deep neck flexors. And what we have to do is we have to learn to recruit those. So what you find with most people when they lift their head is they just come up like this, and they use the outer muscles, okay, as I call them, the Deirdre Barlow look, okay? So they'll use these outer muscles and they'll see them standing up on them, right? So what you want to do is you want to learn to tuck your chin in and roll up, and use your deep neck muscles, okay? And the deep neck muscles are right in at the back, touching the spine, they're in at the spine, whereas the outer muscles are all out here that you can see. You cannot see, you cannot feel your deep neck flexors, but we need to get them working. And in most people, they don't work. Because again, if you just look at me now, if you think of the way most people sit, they slump down and their head is down like this and they're like this, okay? And as a result of that, they actually shorten at the back of the neck here shortens, and these muscles overwork, and they don't actually get into line and use those little muscles in at the back, in front of your spine. They only use the outer ones. So what I'm going to get you to try and learn to do is to nod your head without feeling these muscles switch on. Okay, so if you can imagine you're sitting somewhere and you rest your head back against the back of the settee, the seat of the car, or just standing against a wall, and you literally have your fingers in front of you here, and you do little gentle head nods. And if you can see here, my muscles are not switching on. You can't see the outer muscles, so you're not seeing that kind of a thing happening there. Okay, you're keeping the neck in, and you're just nodding. Okay, so we're going to do that for our head nods. And also this is where we have to think again about the pillow, okay? So, for example, if you look at me, I can very nicely leave my face parallel to the ceiling and everything lined up along my body. But if I was very tight at the back of my neck, or if I was quite round shouldered, I might end up in this position, which I can't start the exercises from this position because I can't use the deep neck flexors. So in that case, I would put in a pillow, okay? And I would get it so that I can keep my face parallel. Now, if you're very round shouldered, and you really are, you might need to put a second pillow in. And obviously because you're at home, I can't tell. So you're going to have to work this out. But if you start with 2 pillows, then as we progress in the exercises and as you get better, you'll try and get it till you can eventually get down to 1 pillow and then ultimately get without any pillow. So I'm going to show you the head nods now. So rock the spine into neutral. Breathe in through the nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor and tighten the core across the front. Make sure the feet are lined up, the shoulders are relaxed, and the back of the head is on the mat. Breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, just lengthen the back of your neck so your chin comes towards your neck, and then breathe in, come back to parallel with the ceiling. Don't go beyond parallel. So breathe out, lengthen the back of the neck and tuck the chin in, and breathe in back to come parallel to the ceiling. So you're literally facing right up to the ceiling. Breathe out, lengthen the back of the neck and tuck your chin towards your neck, and breathe in back parallel. Some people find it useful to imagine you're watching a little fly walk across the ceiling and down beyond your knees, and then back up again to directly above your head. So breathing out, lengthen the back of the neck, tuck the chin in, and then breathing in back up to the face of the ceiling. Hold the core all the time. Breathe out, lengthen the back of the neck, tuck the chin in, and breathing in back to neutral. Last one. Okay, so that's our basic principles. So we'll do 3 more warm-up exercises, and then we will let you try a couple of exercises. So in that same position that we're in, our crook lying position, just rock your pelvis a little bit there, loosen it up because you've been lying a while, roll your legs to side, and we're going to go on to do our hip release, okay? So in your crook lying position, if you watch me, first of all, I'll talk you through the tightening in a moment, but what you're going to do is you're going to breathe out to open the leg out to the side and slide it down the mat. And then you're going to breathe in to turn the leg in and slide it back up. Now, if you watch the path of my foot, the foot actually stays in line, okay? So I'm going to turn the leg out, and the foot stays down that line and turns in and stays in the same line. So the foot isn't coming away out here as we do this. This is just a rotation of the hip as we do it. And the other leg stays pointing towards the ceiling, okay? So rock the pelvis into neutral, shoulders relaxed, back of the head on the mat or pillow, feet lined up with knees and hips. Spine in neutral. Breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor, tighten the core across the front. Breathe in to prepare, and then breathing out, open your leg out to the side and slide down the mat. And breathe in, turn the leg in and slide back up. And put your hands on your pelvis to be sure it doesn't move. Breathe out, open your leg out to the side and slide it down the mat. And breathe in, turn the leg in and slide back up. If there are ridges on your mat, it might be hard to actually slide it, so you can just hover it just above the mat. Opening the leg out, breathing in, turn the leg in and slide back up. Keep the core held and the ribs in line. Breathe out, open the leg out to the side and slide down. And breathe in, turn the leg in and slide back up. Hold the core. Breathing out, open the leg out to the side and slide down the mat. And breathe in, turn the leg in and slide back up. I'm going to go to the other side, so still keep your core held. If you've lost it, just breathe in and out and get it again. Then breathing out, open the other leg out to the side and slide it down the mat. Breathe in, turn the leg in and slide back up. Hold the core. Breathe out, open out and slide down the mat. And breathing in, turn the leg in and slide back up. Keep the core working, keep the other knee pointing to the ceiling, don't let it roll out. Breathing out, open the leg out and slide down. Breathe in, turn the leg in and slide back up. 2 more. And last one, core held. And back to neutral. Well done. Okay, now we're going to go over onto our side and we're going to do our spinal rotation. There's a lovely little exercise for anyone who's tight in the thoracic spine. And we're going to start with our pillow. You're going to roll your pillow into a little sausage shape and put them towards the back of the mat. Now the lining up and the positioning of this is really important, so we want to make sure that you get it right, okay? So if you have that towards the back of the mat, now you have somewhere for your head to roll when you're doing the exercise. So you're going to put your ear towards the front of that mat. Now you have to line up here, one shoulder stacked on top of the other. This is really important. If you don't have the shoulders stacked, the exercise won't work correctly. If the shoulders are stacked correctly, your hands will join in a nice position in front, okay? So that your fingers will meet. If your shoulder is too far forward, okay, and you're too far rolled back, your hands won't meet, okay? If your shoulder is too far back, your hands won't meet, all right? It's one above the other, they're not meeting. They're not meeting at the right point. And the other way that you can have your shoulder wrong is you can have your shoulder right up towards your ear and no gap in here. So you need to, the way I always say it is, you need to have room for a cat to crawl in underneath there. And I'll explain that now in a second. And then your hands join. I'll just move back a little bit there. So your hands join, okay? Then your knees are bent, but they're back in line with your body. So don't have your knees bent up in front. Have them back in line. So your feet, your hips and your shoulders are all on a straight line. Now you're going to rock your pelvis. Now inside line, when I say rock your pelvis, I don't mean rock backwards and forwards like that. I mean rock your pelvis backwards and forwards, okay? Not your body, just your pelvis. And stop when you feel your ribs are lined up with your pelvis. And then if you have your shoulder in the right position here, you should be able to put your hand in underneath a little gap in here. So I say a cat can get under here and a mouse can get under here, and then you know you're in a good alignment, okay? So in that position then, breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside through the pelvic floor and tighten the core across the front. Then breathing in, bring the top arm up towards the ceiling. Now if you just watch me, you're going to roll back from here. What you don't want to happen is you don't want your pelvis to roll first, and you don't want your arm to roll, or you don't want your pelvis to roll at all, and you don't want your arm to go first. You want to start the movement with your rib cage. So if you look at me, my ribs start to go back. So if you can see the white line on my t-shirt, it disappears before the arm goes. So you don't see me just bringing the arm back and then hoping for the best and going with it, all right? What happens is the rib cage goes back, and then I go back as far as I can. I breathe in to stay when I get back there, and then I breathe out to come back and join my hands. And the pelvis doesn't move at all, so you don't see this kind of thing, the whole body goes, all right? And don't worry if you might not go very far, you might only go a little bit today, okay? Because you've got to learn, you've got to stretch out the front, and you've got to learn how to roll your rib cage. So don't worry if you're not going as far as you think you should. Okay, so we're already lined up. Rock the pelvis, breathe in through the nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside to the pelvic floor and tighten the core. Breathing in, bring the arm up towards the ceiling. Now breathe out, lead with your rib cage and roll back as far as you can. Breathe in to stay there, and then breathing out to roll back. Hold the core. So breathing in, bring the arm up. Breathing out, roll it back. Breathe in to stay, and then breathing out to roll forwards and join the hands. Hold the core. Breathing in, bring the arm up. Breathing out, roll the ribs back. Let the head just follow, don't lead with the head. Breathe in to stay, and then breathing out to roll back. Now make sure I haven't left enough room for my arms, so make sure you do. Breathing in, bring the arm up. Breathe out, lead with the rib cage, so I'm banging off the wall, so you leave yourself more space. Breathe in to stay, and then breathing out to roll back. Last two. Keep the core held even when you're on the full stretch. And last one. Breath in, and then breathing out. Let the head just follow with the spine. Breathing out, and then breathe in to stay, and breathe out to come back. Well done, okay? So in that same position now, we're actually going to do our clam exercise, which will get the glutes muscle working, okay? So pop your hands in underneath your pillow. Your other hand is up on your pelvis, and you breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor and tighten the core. Keep the ribs of the pelvis in line and breathe in to prepare. Feel your hands here just in at the pelvis, you'll know the muscle is working. And then breathing out, open up the top leg, and breathing in to close. Keep the core held. So breathing out, open up the top leg, and breathing in to close. Keep working the core. And we're warming up that glute muscle. You should feel it biting in here. If you don't, push a little bit harder, but don't let the pelvis roll back. So breathing out, push up, but don't let the pelvis roll, and breathe in to close. Last one. And now we're going to pop over onto the other side and do our spinal rotation and our clam again. So on the other side, we go through the same process. The pillow is rolled like a little sausage towards the back of the mat. Your ear is at the front of the pillow. Your shoulders are stacked one on top of the other with room for a cat in here. Your hips are stacked, your knees are bent and your feet are level with your hips. Rock your pelvis backwards and forwards and find neutral, and make sure you have a gap for the little mouse. Breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor and tighten the core. Breathing in, bring the arm up. Lead with the ribs, breathe out, roll it back. Breathe in to stay, and breathing out to come forward. And don't lead with your head. So breathing in, arm up. Breathing out, ribs back, and roll. The head just goes nicely with you. Breathe in to stay, and then breathing out to roll the whole way back. Hold the core. Breathing in, arm up. Breathing out, roll it right back. Breathe in to stay, and breathing out to come forwards. Keep that core held. Breathing in, arm up. Breathing out, roll back, and you should still feel it. So even if you just pop your hand onto your pelvis there, you should feel that you're still working. Breathing in to stay, breathing out to come back. 2 more. Don't let the pelvis move. The ribs are what lead the movement. Last one. Ribs leading the movement, arm following, head following. Breathe in to stay, and breathing out to come back. And pop the bottom hand underneath the pillow and your hand onto your hip. We're going to do our clam. Don't let the pelvis roll back. Breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor and tighten the core. Breathe in to prepare, and then breathing out, open up the top leg, and breathing in to close. So breathing out, open right up. Feel the bum muscle kicking in here. Push a little bit harder if you don't, and breathe in to close. Try not to choke your neck. Keep your arm down. So breathing out, leg up, and breathing in to close. Core switched on, ribs lined with the pelvis, and breathing out, leg up, breathing in to close. Last 2. So your shoulders a nice movement, a nice position as well, well down from your ear. Last one. And now we're going to go over onto the tummy. So this is the last really important positional thing that I need to teach you, is on the tummy, okay, how you move your head when you're on the tummy, okay? So a lot of people get this wrong, and I'm going to teach you this, and hopefully you'll understand it and you'll remember it for the future exercises, right? So when we're moving our head, when we're lying on our tummy, we need to be really careful that we do not shorten the back of the neck like this. So my little rule is you should never see the floor above your mat. So when you come up, your head should just come up into a position where you're looking directly down to where your head was before, okay? And you need to initiate this movement with your shoulder blades. So if you remember earlier, we did movements with our shoulder blades, okay? We brought our shoulder blades down our back. So when you're starting this movement, you want to imagine you're trying to put your 2 shoulder blades down into your back pockets, and that's how you're going to start the movement. Shoulder blades down into your back pockets, okay? So in this position as well, when you try to recruit your core muscle, you have to think about rocking your pelvis. Again, you don't rock side to side like this. You rock forwards and backwards. And you want to get it so that your belly is light on the floor. You can see my hand there underneath, okay? So you want to have your belly light on the floor. See, my hand peeping in underneath, okay? Or if you can't get your belly light, completely light off the floor, you want to have it light on the floor. So all the time you're trying to make this part in here as light on the floor as you can. You might want to have your bum muscles switched on a little bit to get it right, and you're not down in this position. So you don't want to be down here, you want to tuck it in and try and get your back flattened towards the ceiling. So if you see me arching my back there, and then I tuck my bum in, I tighten my core, and I get my belly button up off the floor. And that's my neutral position when I'm on my tummy. Then my forehead will be on the mat, and I'm going to start the exercise by bringing the shoulder blades down. So we'll do a couple of those. So forehead on the mat, hands by your ears, and your legs, arms or elbows are out from your side, and your legs are out straight. Okay? Then rock your pelvis to try and get your belly button up off the floor. And make sure you're not doing this. Please, please, please do not have your bum stuck up in the air. Get that bum down and get your belly button off the floor. Breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor and tighten the core to keep the belly button there. Now your forehead is on the mat. Breathe in to prepare, and breathe out, shoulder blades down your back, and breathe in, let them relax. So keep the core held. Breathe out, shoulder blades down your back, and then breathe in, let them relax. Breathe out, shoulder blades down your back, and then breathe in, let them relax. Don't let the belly drop. Breathe out, shoulder blades down, and then let them relax, okay? Now we're going to add in the head, so just look at me for a second. So I breathe in to prepare, belly button's off the floor. I breathe out, shoulder blades down my back, and I raise up to look at the mat. Breathe in to stay, and then I breathe out to lower. I do not do this, shoulder blades down. I do not do that, okay? I cannot see the mat above, or the floor above the mat. That's the rule. And then lower back down. And I want to feel the work going along here, just underneath my shoulder blades, not down here. If you're feeling tension down your low back, that's wrong. You want to feel it up here under your shoulder blades. Okay, so are everybody ready again? So rock the pelvis again to neutral. Breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor and tighten the core. Breathe in to prepare, and then breathe out, shoulder blades down your back and raise up to look at the mat. Breathe in to stay, and breathe out to lower back down. Core switched on. Breathe out, shoulder blades down your back and raise up to look at the mat. Breathe in to stay, and breathe out to lower back down. 2 more. Well done. Now we're going to let our hands down by our side, and we're going to do the same exercise, but this time you're opening the front of your chest and raising up. Now you need to be careful that you feel it all underneath your shoulder blades or along the level of a bra strap, not down at your waist, okay? So long legs again, forehead on the mat, shoulders are relaxed, legs are out straight. Rock the pelvis to get your neutral position, tuck that bum down. Breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside for your pelvic floor and talus. Breathing in to get ready, and then breathing out, open the front of the chest, reach the hands to your hips and raise up. Breathe in to stay, and breathe out to lower back down. Keep the core up. Breathing out, open the front of the chest, reach to your hips and raise up. Breathe in to stay, and breathe out to lower back down. Think of your front of your chest like the wings of a butterfly. Open them up. So breathing out, shoulder blades back and down, raise up. Breathe in to stay, and breathe out to lower. You want to feel it just at the shoulder blade level. Last one, belly button still off the floor. Well done.
So now we're going to get up onto our knees. Bring your hands up underneath your shoulders. Push up onto your hands and knees. And then we're going to let yourself keep your back in a neutral spine, and then just sit back onto your heels to give yourself a good stretch along your back. You can try and get your bum right down onto your heels and give yourself a good stretch. Take 2 or 3 deep breaths in. And then come up onto your hands and knees. Now in your hands and knees, you're going to have your hands underneath your shoulders, shoulder width apart, your knees underneath your hip with your hips hip width apart. If your hands are uncomfortable in this position, you can put a little towel underneath just to take the pressure off your hands. Otherwise, just have your hands flat on the ground. You're going to rock your spine into a neutral position, as same as when you were lying on your back. You're going to get your head into line with your body and parallel with the floor. You don't want to drop down, you don't want it up looking out in front. So parallel to the floor. Breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside for your pelvic floor and flatten your tummy, trying to hold your belly button in towards your spine. Breathe in through your nose, and then as you breathe out, tuck your tailbone in and gently push your waist a small little bit up towards the ceiling. And then a little bit more up in your ribs, up into the middle ribs, up between your shoulders. Then tuck your chin in towards your neck and look down towards your knees. Breathe in to hold that position. Now breathe out, tuck your tailbone out and push your waist really low down towards the ground. Then low down in your low ribs, middle ribs, in between your shoulders. Keep your elbows straight. Bring your head into line with your body and look out in front. Breathe in to hold that position. Then breathe out, keep the core held, tuck your tailbone in and push your waist just a little bit up towards the ceiling. Your low back just a little bit up, a little bit in your middle spine, a little bit between the shoulders. Then tuck your chin towards your neck and look down at your knees. Breathe in to hold that, and then keeping the core held. Breathe out, tuck the tailbone out again, lower your waist towards the floor. Low ribs, middle ribs, really concentrating on trying to get the back to sink in, keeping the elbows straight, head and neck into line and face out in front. Breathe in to hold that. Then breathe out, tuck your tail in. And again, we're just going a little bit when we're moving up. We're tucking up at the waist and the low ribs, middle and upper. We're not pushing it too far because this is the movement that we tend to want to avoid getting stuck in osteoporosis. So tuck your chin in and look down at your knees. Breathe in to hold that. And then breathing out, tuck your tailbone out, waist down, low ribs down, middle ribs down, right down between your shoulders, head and neck into line, look out in front. Breathe in to stay. And then breathing out, tuck the tailbone a little bit in, waist up, low ribs, middle ribs, up between the shoulders, tuck your chin towards your neck and look down towards your knees. Keep the core held, breathe in to hold that position, then breathe out, tucking the tailbone out and waist down, low ribs is down as low as you can go, way down in between your shoulder blades, head and neck into line and look out in front. Breathe in to hold that there and then breathe out, bring yourself back to the neutral position. From here now we're going to roll over and do some exercises lying on our back. So, lying on our back now, we're going to do some leg exercises, but keeping our spine in a neutral position. So, feet lined up with knees and hips, shoulders relaxed back, back of the head on the mat. Breathe in through your nose, and as you breathe out, pull up inside through the pelvic floor and tighten the core across the front. Keep the spine in neutral, ribs aligned with pelvis. Breathing in, bring one leg up to the tabletop position. And breathe out, stretch that leg out towards the floor. Breathe in, bring it back up towards your chest. Breathe out, stretch out towards the floor. Breathe in, right back towards your chest. Breathe out, stretch towards the floor. Breathing in, back towards your chest. You can keep your hands on your hip bones, make sure they don't move. Stretch the leg out. Breathing in to bring it back. Keep the ribs lined with the pelvis. Breathing in to come back. Spine stays neutral. And last one. Back to replace that leg onto the floor. Check on your pelvic floor and tabs. Make sure they're still switched on. Breathe in, make the second leg up to tabletop. And breathe out, stretch the leg out. Breathing in to come back. Keep the core held. Breathing out, stretch out. Breathing in to come back. Your hand is checking your core is still switched on. Stretching out. Breathe in to come back. Keep the ribs in line. Breathing in to come back. All the time trying to keep the spine in neutral. Holding on to that core, deep in the tummy. Last one. And replace that leg.
Now we're going to do one exercise with the legs just to get the glutes fired, and then we're going to call it a day on the exercises today. So we're going to roll onto your side. Again, if you're going to have a pillow flat this time, you're going to put your arm up underneath your head, your pillow in between your ear and your shoulder, and you're going to get yourself into a long straight position. Now when you're doing this, you need to make sure your legs are not to the front. You need to make sure your legs are right back in line with your body, okay? So you're a long straight line from your fingertips to your toes. You need to be careful that you're not rolled forwards and that you're not rolled back. Your hips have to be stacked one on top of the other, shoulders stacked one on top of the other, and you can use your fists in front for support. Now, in this position here, if you see my feet, you can see my feet are level. What I want to do now is I want to stretch that top leg away and make it longer than the bottom leg so that I get a little gap in here of my waist, okay, where I could let a little mouse roll again, all right? So and my spine is in neutral, the ribs are lined up. Breathe in through the nose, and as I breathe out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor and tighten the core across the front. And then I breathe in, lift the leg up with the toe pointed, and breathe out, flatten and lower it back down. And breathing in to lift, point and stretch, breathing out to flatten and lower. Keep the core switched on. Now you have to keep the waist level. So if you can see my pelvis there, I'm going to put my hand here. You can see that my pelvis does not move. So you don't want to see this happening. Okay? You don't want to see that happening. If you're going way up really high, you're doing it wrong. Okay? Keep the leg long. Breath in for half, and then breath out as you lower. So breathing in to lift, point and stretch. Breathing out to flatten and lower. In to point and stretch. Breathing out to flatten and lower. Hold the core. Now we're going to stay up in the next one. And now we're going to do little circles. So breath out for half a circle and in for half. So breath out for half a circle and in for half. Now hold the core in the front. Don't let the ribs poke out. Breath out for half and in for half. Now you should feel a small bit of a circle in front, but most of the circle going behind. Out for half and in for half. Now change the direction. Breath out for half and in for half. Hold the core. And really scoop into the glutes muscle. Feel it working in at the back. Keep the leg really long so you don't drop at the waist. Last one. And lower the leg down. Bend up the two knees and we'll roll over to the other side to repeat that. So on our other side, we're going to, again, let the pillow out flat. Put your arm above your head underneath the little pillow. You're going to line yourself up, straight line, fingertips to toes. Okay, so make sure a really long straight line and you're not dropped forwards at the pelvis, that you have the pelvis right in line, hand in front for support. Then feet again, make the top leg longer so you get your little gap at the waist. Pelvis is in neutral, breathe in and out, pull up inside for the pelvic floor and tighten the core, keep them ribs down in line. And breathing in, lift, point and stretch, breathing out, flatten and lower. Hold the core all the time. Keep the shoulder nice and relaxed as well. You can use your fist, you can use your hand, whatever way you want with the hand. But look at the way my leg doesn't go way up in the air. If you go way up in the air, you're not brilliant, you're just cheating, okay? So don't think the higher you go, the better. It's really making sure the glute works and not the waist. You should feel it in your glute, right in at the back, not in the front. If you're feeling it in the front, you've rolled back. So stay up nice and tall and feel it just behind the hip bone. Now we're going to stay up in the next one and then breathe out for half a circle and in for half. Small circle in front, a little bit bigger behind. Keep the leg really long. See again, the circles are only small. There's really long length in the leg. And last one in that direction and then change the direction. And lower the leg down. Well done. Bend up the two knees and we'll call it a day. Okay, so that is your first Pilates class with us. It's only an introduction. I know it's a little bit boring maybe, but the whole secret today is getting everything right. And if you've managed to pick up the cues and pick up the moves and pick up the positions, and don't worry too much, most people get a little bit obsessed about the breathing. Am I breathing in when I should be breathing out? The breathing is just important to keep breathing, okay? There's only a few exercises that it really matters whether you're breathing in at one time or breathing out. So you don't obsess about the breathing, and don't worry, we'll talk you through it. We'll repeat everything over and over again so you won't get lost. So I hope you enjoyed the first class, and we'll talk to you in class 2. Okay, thank you.